It's cooler in the evening, but been warm enough during the day that all of the greens have bolted. And we have some beautiful flowers that are great for a little while, but it's about time to start cutting off the tops before things get too woody and start layering the materials down as mulch. Now, some of these greens are still edible, but they're going to be a little bit bitter. So because these plants are not true to seed, what we're going to do is cut off the tops and mulch them. My name is Justin Hitt from Prosperity Homestead, and we're out here in a little side garden, and what we're doing is a little bit of chop and drop of our greens. And I was eating some. They're not bitter, but they will be soon. And by chopping the top off and laying it down as mulch, we are protecting the plant, keeping in some moisture. Periodically, I'll find a little bit of different types of plants that we can pull up and turn over and mulch. But we're essentially using a comma or a scythe here, and we're just cutting the tops off and layering it, giving us an additional mulch layer on top of the straw. And then as we start cutting grass, I'm cutting grass with a scythe, so we have long cuts of grass to layer down on top of that. What we end up with is a very thick mulch layer that we can then interplant between. And you can see got different things popping up, and you just kind of pull it off and lay it down. And you don't really have to weed per se. Some of these actually you can put in tea. Makes a good tea. I don't remember the name of it though. And here's some oregano. Can work around that. And then there's also a number of bulbs in here. So by just going in and taking some handfuls out where the grass is raised up and throwing it back on the top, we're essentially creating layers of material. And I'm going to primarily do this where I might put in some plants. So I don't have to pull the whole bed, but I want to get them before it goes to seed. And we got new beds coming along here. We're going to just start composting this area. Comfrey's coming in. There's different types of plants all over. But we're going to clean this area up by cutting off the tops. Now, some people will come in here and pull these plants up. I don't want to pull the plants up. I want to pretend there was a giant grazing. Something had gotten in here and just grazed everything down. Keep the roots active in the soil. Pull some of this stuff for tea. Get this chicory before it goes to seed. And simply just keep layering the beds. And as we layer the beds more and more and more, we'll layer with compost, top dress with compost. We'll come in and there's areas there's actually seed beds in here. So it's actually under there are clay seed balls. And I'm gonna work my way around here real quick. I take down some of this fence, but we dump leaves in here, and we actually have some of our clay seed balls starting to come up. So you have to have an idea of what's a plant and what's not. But some of this bulk stuff right here, we don't really need it too much. So again, before I start bringing in my cut grass, I'm going to go ahead and chop the tops off, lay them down, and just start mulching in layers. And then as I have grass materials to come in or additional straw, I'll start strawing around my little plants that are coming up and the existing plants, because some of these may summer over, may not. Doesn't really matter to me. You know, if there's little bits of grass, you can see how that grass is actually growing up in a mulch layer. So I can throw it right up on top. And then these big thick plants over here, I'll take some leaves in. But it's that, see this grass, when we cut that grass with a sickle or scythe, it's that layering of materials. So it's a grass-fed garden. What we're going to end up with is these layers like this. We got straw underneath here. We got grass up over top of it. We've got little materials laid back up on top of that. And then every time it rains, it starts cooking down. And then we get some compost here and there. We layer some compost in. Now with our greens, we can't really layer compost in because we don't want to contaminate the greens. But as it gets warmer, these greens will start getting a little rough, and you can see the stalks under here. You know, those will get super woody. But again, I don't want to cut this stuff off at the ground because I still might be able to pick some greens out of it. And also, these provide a distraction. A deer gets up in here with the young new plants, they're going to get this stuff that's good, nice head level. May still have some flavor on it, but I'm not going to let this stuff go to seed because it's not true to seed. These plants are not true to seed. Excuse me. I've been eating this stuff as I go along. Now, if they're true to seed, I take every other plant and chop it down and keep the best plants to go to seed. Geez, should have brought some water. But long story short is I'll cut the tops out, lay them down as mulch. I'll be mindful of my new plants coming in. Once I have a good thick mulch layer, I'll come back and interplant with it with plant starts as they're available. These plants that are still up and about, left behind, that are getting a little woody, they're going to offer some cover for my new plants, some protection in case I get predators, I get deer in here. You can see the onions down on that bottom row. And I'm just building these layers of material up. And these long materials, they don't mat down. See, there's airspace in between there. And so we might still have little grasses come up like that little bit right there. But as I keep putting, again, layer after layer after layer, the worms come up from underneath. They start eating the material. There's airspace in between these materials as they lay down, and you're going to get airflow between them. Sometimes I might find little flowers like this. That's a wildflower, so I won't pull that one up. Now, these are going to be wildflowers right here. So I might work around and give me a little bit better definition to the wildflowers that are growing. I might see a little grass like this come up, get in there tight and cut that off. But, I might see some dirt. And I might want to cut some stuff around that dirt and get that dirt covered in and healed up. And ultimately, you're going to have a better, thicker garden bed with natural, organic compost and materials. There's some straw that was a little too wet. I might take that straw and run it around, but we do not use these grass clippings. These grass clippings, I'll keep throwing material here and keep mounting it and turning it till it's compost. We don't use these grass clippings because they mat. See, we're not looking for matted materials. We're looking for thick, different types of layers. And then we'll water this stuff down periodically so that we can stimulate the seeds that are up underneath it. The clay balls tend to grow okay, but we also come in here and plant new plant starts. So there's bulbs all down that row there. And again, this is just a little side garden on the side of the house. And we're doing some late spring cleanup before we get our plant starts in. And we want all this nutrients before it goes to seed. We want all this stuff. And you can really just take your hand and reach underneath it and just do like the rabbits do and pull a little bit out. Now I could throw it all in the path. You know, I could just go through it, little rip and tear, pull it off, throw it on the path, make sure I'm not getting anything that I want to keep. And then once it's in the path and it reveals some little dirt clods here and there, take it, just put it right back. Put it right back. Now you might be asking the question, what about mice, Justin? What about mice? What about slugs? What about stuff like that? Well, I could have mice, voles, and other stuff running around here under these materials, but again, it's open, it's wide open. There's plenty of range to come right in here for a big hawk or a bird to come in here and just get that mouse right up. And there just tends not to be any mice in here. I do get small birds that'll nest under these, so I am mindful when I put my hand in here, if a bunch of birds come out, I'll give them some space. And there's wildflower seed in here, so I'm also mindful of the wildflower seed. Now this ripping and roaring and stuff I'm going through here doing, I tend to focus it on where I'm going to put seedlings. So I'm going to work this row here in the center here to completion, because that's where I'm going to put seedlings in probably next week. And this row down here will get a little bit of work, but there's already plants in here. So there's already, and some of these little things that got pushed up, you know, might be stuff I put in the seedlings. But definitely, that's a seed I put in. There's some onions on a row down there. And usually I'll mark this stuff out pretty good so I'll know what's going on. But you can reach just right up under here, rip that off, throw it on the top. Now again, my greens, my browns, everything's composting on the bed in layers. And those layers, we just keep going on top of them over and over again. And we end up, it's breaking down. I'll show you a little bit of the soil profile. And I'm just, again, randomly going over here. A little bit of soil profile. This is a first year bed. And we got good crumbly soil now. It's a little dry, but our chops and breaks, that one looks a little rough right there. Our little chops and breaks are going to basically break down into our nice soil profile. Now, what if you have diseased plants? Okay, because we're using a natural system here. And what if you got diseased plants? Well, you can take them out and put them in a hot compost pile, or you can cut them and layer them like this. It's best not to cut and layer them if you've got a clear disease, because you're going to have a compost pile nearby. 3 hot cycles in the compost, then you put it back out here in the garden as a top dress layer. And then, like, what if you've got insects? That looks like it's got a little bit of insect in it. Maybe, maybe not. Well, if you got insects, then chop down that plant so that the insects don't have a place to stay. And I'm gonna need to take out all these little fiberglass posts so that I'm not smacking them with a blade. If you have any questions about what I cover here or in any of our other programs, I'm Justin Hitt from Prosperity Homestead. I'm a permaculture design consultant, and we manage a number of holistic, environmentally friendly, low input gardens. And you can see the abundance of food I didn't get to eat. I've been eating off this thing a while. And you know, when this get a little warm, there's some birds. When it gets a little warm, it goes crazy. But again, all that nutrient is going to go right back on the surface of the soil. Worms are going to do their thing. The worms are going to do their thing. I'm going to have the plants for a little bit of shelter. And then we're going to get good going in here. Now, what's another thing I could do? Well, if we could have chickens in the city, I could put a temporary fence around here and come impound some chickens with a fence down on the bottom, on the low side, that goes all the way over here into the middle of the path on the high side. And chickens would actually scratch this all out, but you can't have that interplanting if you had chickens in here. And not allowed to have chickens in the city. So if you have any questions, click the link below. Visit us at www.prosperityhomestead.org and start enjoying some fresh food, low impact in the environment, low inputs, and great results. Thanks for watching.